Revenue for the country is up. The Youth, Sports and Culture Minister responding to the audit of the National Sports Authority, and ministers weighing in on the domestic dispute where a woman was beaten and then struck by a car. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Simonet with your Jcn News for this Tuesday, November 16th. Revenue for the first quarter of the fiscal year 2021-2022 is up more than 90% as the Bahamian economy continues its steady recovery, even in the face of the global COVID-19 pandemic. And finance officials say this outcome is encouraging as the country recovers from devastating events like Hurricane Dorian. Our Lizzie Bastian takes a closer look at the country's first quarter fiscal performance.
Government revenues for the first quarter of the fiscal year 2021-2022 are ahead $92 million, as revealed in the Ministry of Finance's first quarter fiscal snapshot and report on budgetary performance for the same period. The Ministry of Finance, releasing a statement last evening, says the revenue performance in the country, which stood at $92 million ahead of projections, will be further boosted by increased revenue policies that will be announced and implemented shortly, alongside improved revenue administration efforts with the reintroduction of the Revenue Enhancement Unit, REU. The REU is expected to increase intake by $200 million over the next 5 years, or roughly 2% of gross domestic product. Total revenue performance for the quarter was driven by a combination of gains in real property taxes, value-added tax collections, and excise taxes. Property taxes expanded by $12.1 million and accounted for about 13% of the budget. The relaxation of the lockdowns and health and safety restrictions resulted in increases in VAT receipts by $160 million to $294.7 million, or 34.9% of the budget. Excise taxes expanded by $26.9 million, or 11.4% of the budget. These and other increases raised total revenue to $572.8 million, accounting for 25.5% of the budget target. Now, prudent expenditure management remains a tenet of the post-COVID fiscal management plan, which also prioritizes COVID relief provision for employees and households as they weather the impacts of these exogenous factors. Social assistance benefits and other COVID support programs have elevated spending by the government by roughly $39.4 million during the quarter. The Ministry of Finance's statement says overall expenditure grew by $89 million, or 14%, to $726.2 million. Taken together, the deficit position stood at $153.5 million at the end of the quarter, which is $182.8 million less than the year prior, mostly in line with the projected deficit at 16.1% of the budget target. The Ministry of Finance's statement says the ministry continues to craft and evaluate policies and administrative techniques that will support the growth and expansion of the economy. These numbers are indicating that although there is a ways to go, the recovery is steady and the proper use of scarce and valuable government funds will result in a more innovative and sustainable economic climate for Bahamians. Well, former Attorney General Carl Bethel, weighing in on the Ministry of Finance's first quarter fiscal snapshot and report on budgetary performance, contends that the fiscal resources of the country are in enormously good shape, with $90 million over projection surplus, which didn't just happen since the September general elections, but the foundations were laid prior to the elections by the minister-led administration. This, Mr. Bethel says, can also be attributed to the man he's backing in the Free National Movement's leadership race, former Minister of State Kwesi Thompson. Mr. Bethel contends that the steady rebound of the economy has much to do with the work that the minister-led administration had put in, as he addressed critics.
Well, that is unfortunately, it is what they call the Pharisees' prayer. The prayer of the Pharisee, may I reap fields that others have sown. So now we see that the Pharisees in power are reaping the fields sown and grown by the efforts of the minister administration. But that's the reality of political transition and change. So nobody begrudges them that, but we left them an economy distinctly on an upward trajectory, on a good rebound, and they've got the benefit of it. So, I commend them for being able to enjoy the benefits of the efforts of Minister Kwesi Thompson and the administration as a whole. And, because at the end of the day, what they reap benefits the Bahamian people as well.
Mr. Bethel adds that the Minister administration was always intent on getting it right for the Bahamian people.
Economic trajectory in this country today is directly as a result of all of the efforts made and the institutional changes put in place by the administration.
The Ministry of Finance says first quarter fiscal performance confirmed that the Bahamian economy continues its steady recovery with revenue outcomes exceeding expectations. Gains from the uptake in economic performance were owed to the resurgence in the travel and tourism market worldwide. Further, the combination of successful vaccination strategies locally and in other countries are resulting in the loosening of travel and other COVID-19 related restrictions worldwide. Consequently, this cautious and measured pace of opening the local and global economy has positively supported upticks in domestic business activities. This outcome for the first quarter is encouraging as the country continues to recover from such devastating events, even though the country is still plagued with the impacts of Hurricane Dorian and the persistence of the COVID-19 pandemic on the social and economic environments. The data demonstrates positive movements in the economy, signaling the beginning of a sustained recovery. For Jcn News, I'm Lissy Bastian.
Youth, Sports and Culture Minister Mario Boleg responding to the audit of the National Sports Authority tabled in the House of Assembly on Monday. A review of the audit raising concerns surrounding the awarding of contracts without cabinet approval, along with the receipt of items by the NSA before payment was effected. The report also noted that in Section 8 of the Sports Authority Act 2011, it states that the minister has the ability to give the authority directions of a general or specific nature regarding the policy to be followed by the authority in performing its functions, if the minister believes it's within the public's interest. However, documents obtained suggest that circumvention of controls may have occurred.
Well, that's why I'm actually have the copy of the audit in my hand and going through it by detail and ensuring that once I meet with the new board, once the new board get in place, who is responsible for ensuring of the governance of the NSA, we will then make sure that whatever personnel needs to be changed or added to make sure that these efficiencies don't happen again.
He also told reporters before heading into cabinet meeting Tuesday morning that it's up to the Prime Minister to decide if something will be done regarding the audit's findings.
But when I say that again, anything that comes with any ministry as relates to any former minister that taking place, if it was some wrongdoing that comes to light, it's not the minister's responsibility, but that's something that I think will move forward to either the Prime Minister or the AG. If they find some wrongdoing with any former minister, it's not the present minister to go there and make any assertion or decision on those wrongdoings. Fine, it's a public knowledge. And so whatever steps that needs to be taken will be done by those who have the authority to do so.
He adds that the findings of the report came as no surprise, considering that he knew the former minister had to resign. He says it's just facts that came to light. Now, this audit was conducted from February 23, 2021, a day after former Minister Lanisha Roll tendered her resignation, to March 10, 2021. Following the former minister's resignation, it was confirmed that certain matters have been brought to the attention of former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and were under investigation. The audit was done for the period of July 1, 2018 to January 31, 2021. National Security Minister Wayne Munro responding to a domestic dispute which took place on Monday, resulting in a woman being ran over by a car. Minister Munro says there's no type of excuse for that type of violence towards anyone, regardless of what may have taken place.
I'm not interested in any excuse about money problems, about the woman troubling you, about her rowing. You just walk away. This is some of what I have spoken about, which is that we have to address ourselves, our behavior, because that's completely unacceptable. When I was raised that you didn't hit women. That's much more than hitting a woman. And so we have to address, again, as I say, the socialization of persons. We have to address the anger that seems to be rampant in this country, but that's completely unacceptable.
Minister of State for Social Services, Lisa Raming, also chimed in on the conversation, who says what we're seeing is an uptick in domestic violence in our country. Asks what's being done to address this, she says this.
So the Gender and Family Affairs, this week, of course, we're starting our campaign as it relates to gender-based violence and the Stop Against Violence. And so we'll be in the community, certainly Urban Renewal will be on the ground, we'll be in the community providing information and pamphlets where persons can call and they can reach out to persons for help. And those who need help and afraid don't know where to go, we'll be on the grounds to reach out to them so that they can know where to come and they can feel like somebody cares. And so this is an opportunity for our whole country, our nation, to stand together. And if we know that there's somebody being abused, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, we're asking you to reach out. Reach out to social services, reach out to the urban centers. We are here for you. We want to make a difference.
Yesterday, police reported that a woman in her early 30s was ran over by a man following an argument. That man, upon hitting her, dragged her a short distance with his car until finally coming to a stop after colliding with another vehicle. The woman is said to be in hospital in stable condition. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville expresses concern following the Bubble Fest that took place over the weekend. Dr. Darville says there's always concerns when large gatherings are held, especially as health officials are preparing for a possible fourth wave of COVID-19 in country.
The Ministry of National Security is aware of it. I'm sure he'll make comment on it very soon. If I'm not mistaken, I think the individual was cited. There's some circumstances surrounding the bubble, but I'm informed that the individuals who were marching came out of the bubble and were not able to go back in. So it was not a part of the event. But again, we must be careful and we must be vigilant and to be able to ensure that the public health protocol.
National Security Minister Wayne Munro has since confirmed that persons were indeed cited.
I've seen a video and I was advised by the Commissioner of Police that there was an event at, I think it was Breezes. But when the vehicles were leaving, patrons left the property and followed the vehicle. That came to the attention of the police who investigated and issued citations. I cannot say what the citations were for, but I can say that the report is that all of the persons that were behind the vehicle were persons who had been in the bubble.
The event took place at Super Club Breezers Resort and features soca sensation Kez the Band.
It was low down. It was dirty, it was underhanded, it was egregious what they did to me. And I will bring the evidence in this house to demonstrate it. It was very personal.
A heated row breaking out in the lower chamber yesterday morning over public beaches and parks contracts. That was the voice of Golden Isles Member of Parliament Vaughan Miller, claiming that he was victimized by the previous Free National Movement administration, particularly by the former executive chairman of Bahamas Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority, Shanadon Cartwright. Mr. Miller said that he could not remain silent on this issue.
Leading up to the elections, as the Member of Parliament, my opponent was treated as the Member of Parliament. Contracts were issued in excess of $200,000. Only 5,000, under 5,000, I was able to assist. And the record will reflect that. That the record speaks loudly and clearly, and I will present it in this house.
St. Barnabas MP Cartwright passionately denied the allegation, saying that he and the previous administration did their best and that it's a statement that the Golden Isles MP resents.
I vehemently resent with the aspersion that the member is trying to cast on this member, right? To call my integrity into question relative to the assignment of contracts, okay? The member can surely make the statement, if he wishes, that he doesn't feel that he was dealt with fairly. Dealt with fairly. I have no issues with that. But to suggest that this member tried personally, Madam Speaker, tried personally to deprive or disadvantage the member. I've not been about that in politics. Now, some people might hear that, Madam Speaker, and think that, this is just hyperbole, or that I'm just trying to say the political thing. I have not been that way in my public life.
The intense row happened after Minister of Works and Utilities Alfred Sears revealed that a number of contracts given out by the Public Park and Beach Authority under the Minnis administration were currently under review.
Shortly before the general elections, all of the contracts were renewed, and according to the management team, some of these contractors had not performed satisfactorily. Nevertheless, there was instruction that every contract be renewed. Secondly, some contracts were not signed by the authority, and work was, the contractors purported to perform, notwithstanding the fact that the contract was only signed by the contractor, but not the authority.
Mr. Cartwright continued that he never played politics while in office and that his reputation reflects that. He also denied that contracts were issued or rushed due to the 2021 general elections. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.